All right, Michael is here with us, and Stephen Wynne-Jones, editor of Checkout magazine. And the results are in, Michael. What was the result? Where is cheaper?
The North was cheaper by €3.81. Now, that didn't include petrol or any of that other stuff. It was just literally on the two baskets of goods that we bought.
OK, and how did you choose the basket of goods, by the way?
Basically, we thought it was stuff that people would tend to buy at Christmas time. So there's no cheese or bread or milk or any of that stuff in there. I know people do buy that at Christmas time. But it was kind of luxury stuff. Alcohol, things like that.
All right. OK, so let's look at a couple of specific items, because there are some anomalies, aren't there?
Well, if you look at stuff like, if we broke it down into a few different areas, things like, you know, the Quality Street, the tins of roses, stuff like that, lots of people buy them. As I said in the VT, I've been seeing them all over the place for weeks already. Quality Street, $5.67 in the north, $5.99 in the south. Not much of a difference there.
Was it on a deal, though, in the south? Was it half price?
There was a deal on in the south, yeah, there was.
So it would normally be double that?
It would normally be, yeah. Yeah. But those deals have been on for weeks as well, you know, at this stage. Cadbury's biscuits, again, not much of a difference, $5.98 in the north, $6.99 in the south, €1 of a difference. Two-pack of 2-litre Coca-Cola was $2.99 in the north, $4.39 in the south, so there was a little bit of a difference there on that one, all right. Alcohol is something that people always say is cheaper in the north. So we bought bottles of wine, Hardy's, two bottles of Hardy's wine, $15.51 in the north, €14 in the south. So it was actually €1 cheaper
in the south. Again, were they on a deal?
Part of the reason that the wine was so cheap in the south is that Tesco are doing a 25% off their wine if you buy 6 bottles or more. And in the north,
you wouldn't be getting 6 bottles of wine.
Of course, I wouldn't, Colette, no. I got them for you. And in the north, if you buy 6 bottles of wine, you only get 5% off. Okay, so that was quite a big difference.
So 25% off in Tesco in the south, and 5% in Sainsbury's in the north.
In Sainsbury's in the north, yes. The other interesting one on the alcohol was Heineken, $26.48 in the north, €17 in the south for a box of 20 bottles of Heineken, which I thought was an incredible saving.
So
cheaper in the south.
The message seems to be, though, when it comes to groceries and alcohol, it depends on which ones you're buying and at what particular time and what particular deals are on on any given day.
Yeah, all shops have deals, you know, all the time. We went up there, it was a snapshot in time, basically. You could go up there tomorrow and find out there's different deals and things like that. One other quick thing to mention, Purcell, which people always say is cheaper, household stuff like that, $8.36 in the north, $20.59 down south. So there was significant
huge differential. Okay, so if you're hung up on having Purcell in your washing machine, that's nearly 2.5 times the price of it.
Yeah, if you go up there and fill your boot full of Purcell, then you'll make substantial savings.
All right, why did you pick Sainsbury's, by the way, in the north?
Just basically the Keys shopping centre, which is one of the most popular shopping centres that people go to in Newry, Sainsbury's is in the Keys, so that's why we went to Sainsbury's.
All right, you only looked at groceries, Michael. You didn't look at, say, sort of the big ticket items that people might be buying for Christmas.
No, we didn't.
Electronic stuff like iPads and all that kind of thing. Generally speaking, they are much cheaper in the north.
They are seen as being cheaper in the north, all right, yeah. Okay. Again, you know, if you go up, the message is, I suppose, if you go up for something specifically, and if you want a big item, you go up for something specifically, then there are some savings to be made. But if you're, I suppose, looking in general across things, you know, when you factor in petrol and everything else, it doesn't make sense to go up there.
Yeah, well, maybe if you're 45 minutes or an hour from the border, it'll be worth your while. I'm sure our viewers in Kerry tonight aren't going to be making the hike if they're not getting something specific.
No, there was 135 cars in the car park. 50 were from Louth, 50 odd were from Dublin. Very few from Cork and Kerry and down the south, as you mentioned.
All right, Stephen, where are we in terms of price sensitivity and getting bang for our buck and patriotism? Because I remember a number of years ago when the cross-border thing was at its height, maybe 2008, 2009, and there was a call, be patriotic, you know, buy Irish, go shopping in the south. Which are we, patriotic or price sensitive?
I think that Harry from the Marshes Centre in that video really summed it up best, in that there are people that are going to shop up the north. That's just the way they do it. Every weekend they might just pop into Newry and get some groceries. But I think that the competitive nature of the Irish grocery industry down in the south is a real indication that there is so much value to be had here. People are shopping around a lot more. They're shopping in Aldi and Lidl. They're not ashamed to shop in Aldi and Lidl. And maybe a few years ago, you know, there was a bit of a taboo subject to do so. On the back of that, then, Tesco and Dunn's and Super Value really engaging in really strong price promotions. So the level of value out there has never been this high.
But you mentioned Aldi and Lidl. Presumably then Aldi and Lidl in the north are cheaper again if you're going to make the hop across.
I think you can make comparisons on a list of groceries. I mean, you will always find groceries which are going to be more expensive in the south compared to the north, or vice versa. For shoppers coming down from the north to the south, there might be several groceries there that are cheaper. I think one of the things that you mentioned, Michael, was alcohol. Because obviously the price differential in Heineken between the Tesco and the Sainsbury's was quite significant. And alcohol is one of those categories that people have historically felt that there's much better value to be had in the north.
But Stephen, if you were hung up on a particular brand of wine or a particular beer or particular spirits, and you did your homework at the laptop at home, on the laptop at home before you went, you could make much bigger savings if the right thing is on the right deal in the right shop at the right time.
But would you go over the border just to buy a bottle of wine?
Well, I suppose it depends on how much you drink. I mean, if you're stocking up for months on end, you would probably make significant savings.
Well, my wine cellar isn't that big, I don't think. But I suppose from an everyday grocery point of view, I mean, Stephen Wynne made the point that the value of an average basket has gone down considerably in the past few years. Yeah. And that's the fact of, I suppose, the influence of Aldi and Lidl on the marketplace. Something like the Tesco price promise, which was introduced a couple of weeks ago, was very much a reaction to Aldi and Lidl. Tesco finally, I suppose, they put their head above the parapet and said, yes, we need to compete more on price with Aldi and Lidl.
They were admitting they were more expensive.
Aldi actually had a little field day with that one, yeah, that's right. But I mean, Dunn's and SuperValu as well have really grasped the nettle as well. They've offering really good vouchers for bulk buys. If you spend 50 quid, they give you a tenner off. I mean, these are phenomenal deals going on in the Irish marketplace that maybe don't get the coverage they deserve.
But probably the same stores in the north, Tesco in the north and all the rest, would do the same deals as well.
Well, Tesco in the north obviously have their own prerogative. I suppose they're in competition with Sainsbury's, they're in competition with Asda. Down in the south, you can only fight the battle on your own doorstep, I suppose. And Tesco's market share, I mean, it has taken a bit of a dent in recent months, and that's partly because of the strength of Aldi Lidl, but also partly the strength of Dunn's and SuperValu and the resolve that's out there in the marketplace. Everyone is looking over their shoulder. Everyone's trying to outdo each other when it comes to value and a strong proposition. All
right, baby products. I know you weren't looking for baby products when you went shopping, Michael, but they are traditionally one of the things that people would say, you know, if you go up and bulk buy again nappies, or perhaps if you have a new baby coming into the house and you have to buy all those big things like, you know, the travel systems and the buggies, there are savings to be made there.
This is all the stuff you're interested in, Michael. Yeah, nappies apparently there are big savings to be made on that. I mean, obviously you can't fit everything into one trolley, so we just did the groceries on this one. But yes, we were talking outside. Nappies are something that people go and buy across the border.
Exactly, and historically there's been a lot of products which have, you know, been cheaper in the north. Over-the-counter medicines is another one, like paracetamol and things like that. But again, you're not necessarily going to drive all the way to Newry just to get your paracetamol. If you remember back a few years ago, 2008, 2009, we had bus loads of people coming up from Cork. I mean, the parameters were completely different back then. Petrol was €1 a litre, it's now 1.59.
There was almost parity between...
There was almost parity in sterling and euro differential. And then you had, I suppose, a retail market which was just shell-shocked by the influx of this sudden recession, which obviously was a deep recession, as we discovered. So the market conditions are hugely different now. So obviously it facilitated, maybe, I don't know whether there was a panic mode in shoppers and consumers that drove them over the border. But those parameters aren't the same anymore.
All right. Stephen, you mentioned over-the-counter medicines, and we are planning on midweek to look at the issue of medicines and prescription medicines and if they are cheaper up the north, and we're going to be looking at that in the coming weeks. So if you have any stories that you'd like to tell us in relation to that, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks indeed, Stephen, and indeed, Michael. All right, coming up after the break, as Roisin Conroy is awarded 2.6